Okay, so we want to take this array integer list that we started with, and we want to create an array list of a generic object element E. So I'm going to make a new class called just ArrayList. And what we're going to do is copy the entirety of the array integer list out. So I'm going to grab everything from here down. And we're going to get a lot of errors as we start making some changes, but especially right here, we'll get errors because I don't have a constructor. I have a undefined array integer list constructor. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down a list and change things as we go. So the first thing I think we need is to import java.utilities. Let's leave that out for a second. Let's figure out where we need that. Okay, so we're going to do array list, and it's going to be for a generic object element type E. Then when we define our fields here, we're going to have a private field of type, array of type E, and a private integer size. So that's the same default capacity, 10, maybe it's 100, change it. So here's our first constructor. We're going to get rid of the word integer here. It's still going to accept a capacity element data, except it's not going to be an integer array. It's going to be array type E. And then here we have an issue because the syntax for that is a little off. So what we need to do is make this an object array to begin with, and then cast it as an element E array. So that's a little weird. This is one of the reasons we do it with the array integer list first, is so that we can understand all the logic that's going on, and then the new logic is sort of that we're dealing with this generic element E. So this would be like an object type vegetable or publication or any of the things that we've looked at, rectangle, lines, points. Could be any object type. Okay, so now our second constructor, same thing. Delete this integer out of there, and that calls the first constructor. Technically, I should have done this on the array integer list, is have if you have a negative capacity, it should throw something. So we didn't do that, but I'll leave it out for now. Just want to make sure that I'm recording. So hang on one second. Okay, we seem good there. So now we're adding something to the end of the list. We're not adding an integer. We want to add an E value. And that's all that changes there. So we accepting a value of type E, and then it adds it to the end of the array. Same thing in the next method, add. Notice the comments don't even need to change, add value to the end of the list. Next one, we're adding a value and shifting everything to the right. Again, it's not an integer value, it's object type E. And everything in there looks fine. So we move down. Add all. Again, we're not adding an array integer list, we're adding an array list. And you'll see there's this issue here, and it says something about, let's see, something about the E, the type array list E is not applicable. So what's happening there is this array list needs to be type E. And now it should work. Other dot get I, what's going on now? Let's see. Not applicable for the integer arguments int. Other dot get. Oh, because we haven't finished this get method down below. So I need to go down there and work on that. So I'm just gonna, so this error is telling me that get is returning an integer, and it is. So I'm just gonna go down and fix that right now. So get is returning an element data at that index, but we don't want it to be type integer. We want it to be type E. And now it checks the index and it returns that element E, and go back up to add all, and now that's working. We're doing a set. So when we're doing a set, we don't want to have this integer value. We want to have E value, and that should set the value at that index to the given value E. Remove, notice nothing had to happen here with remove, except that when we have objects of type, as opposed to an integer, Java will automatically clean up integer storage space, but it won't clean up these object storage spaces. So what we want to do here is we want to say element data. Let's see. We're removing, let's see, what are we doing here? We're moving and moving everything to the left. So we want to take the last item, which would be at size -1, and we want to set it equal to null. And that allows the Java garbage collector to then utilize that space that it's saving for that object. We're also going to do that in the clear method. Go through and clear them all out to null. So we did get already, size is the same. So here's clear. I want to run a loop for integer I equals 0, I less than size, I plus plus. And we want to take each element at I and set it equal to null. And this just allows that space to be utilized and cleaned up. Okay, and then we've got index of, again, it's not an integer value, it's an E value. And the equals will actually test that they're the same variable. And so that's very rarely going to be true. What we want it to be is the same, that they contain the same elements. So we need to use, in that case, the dot equals method for objects, which it will automatically use. We don't have to write our own, or maybe we've already written one in the E, whatever the E class was. Okay, so then that guy dot equals changes. Sum we're not going to have at all, so we're just going to delete it out. Average we're not going to have. Contains, again, this is an E value, and now that guy is good to go. Boolean is empty, good. Public array integer list iterator, this is now going to be, let me just check the other ones here. We've got check index is good to go. Sure, capacity is done. Let's see, something's wrong here. Let's see. This is an E array. I think that's it, maybe. No, let's see. Same problem here. We're going to go new object. And we'll cast it. Maybe we can just go E. Let's see. No, I think it needs to be a new object array, and then we cast it type E. There it goes. Got rid of that error. So you could see why we didn't do this, why we did the array integer list first, is we didn't want to have to deal with these sort of abstract ideas of an object versus an object of type, element E, and then this weird casting that we're doing. It's a little confusing, and really, to be honest, it's when we get used to doing that, or when if we're doing it a lot, then that becomes second nature. But if we're doing it infrequently, like we are, you always kind of have to be like, wait, which way does it go? Okay, and so that guy's set. The two strings should be done. So we're going to go back up to this the iterator. We're going to get rid of that. So this is just an ArrayList iterator. Return a new ArrayList iterator. And then we haven't written this code yet. So what I want to do is I actually want to just put the ArrayList iterator within this class. So we're going to cheat a little bit in that we're going to grab the other iterator. So this is the array integer list iterator, and I'm going to grab, again, all of it down to here, copy it all. And inside of ArrayList, let's paste it in right below here. Okay, so we're going to make it, I think I want to make it private. And then those guys public. I'm going to check on that. 1 second. Yeah, so I want this to be a private class. ArrayList iterator, ArrayList iterator. I no longer need it to contain an array list because it's going to be the iterator for this type of list. So it's already going to have the list, going to call when you do dot iterator, it's going to pull it from inside here. So we don't need to set the list equal to anything in the constructor, nor do we need a parameter here. In other words, and it's also, and just called an ArrayList iterator. So when that guy ArrayList iterator gets initiated, it's called this one up here. That's going to call this constructor, and it's just going to set position to 0 and remove OK to false. We don't need to send a list in because this is the list that we're dealing with. So here we don't need list.size, we just need size. Or has next, position is less than size. Same thing here. We don't have to get the position. We already have the position. So we just change that to position. And we update the position, set remove equal to true, and return the result. Down here, same thing. We don't have list. We do have, we need to go back up here and we need to say that it implements ArrayList iterator, implements iterator for objects. In this case, it'll be type E. Pause. Note. Okay, I think I forgot to change the import. That's where I need the import of utilities, and that should take care of that error, and it does. ArrayList iterator, public. So next is not going to return an integer, it's going to return an object of type E. And then again, results not an integer, it's an object of type E. And position, this should be list, this should be, let's see. So we want to get, I think it's, let's see. We could use, so we know the position that we want to return. So we could use this dot get position, should work. Not this, because it's, well, no, it should work. I can also, I believe, use element data bracket position. And that's the value that's stored there. There we go. I'm not sure why this dot get didn't, oh, because this is referring back to the ArrayList iterator inside of here. So you might have to do like, I'm not sure how you would do that, but this works. Element data position, and then remove. Again, same problem here. List dot remove. It should be just remove. No. Position -1. Let me check on that. Pause for 1 second. Okay, so this syntax is new as well. We need, I didn't just type something somewhere. Array list, tell it that we're going back up to the array list class dot this dot remove. So, we can't use this by itself because this is going to refer back to the array list iterator, which we've encapsulated within this class array list. So what we're doing to access the methods of the array list, instead of saying just this, we're telling the code that we want to go back up to the main class array list and then dot this dot remove, and then we decrease the position. So that same idea should work here. Let me just try it, see if it does. So we should be able to say E result equals array list dot this dot get, and it would be position or position -1. Yeah, and that also works. So this type in here also works here. So you can access the element data array directly, or you can utilize the array list this dot get function, and both of those will work. Okay, so that's our array list. We go back up to the top of type E. We went through, just want to recap what we did. We changed from an array integer list to an array list of object type E. And then we had to kind of trace that changing through. So whenever we were referring to our integer array, we had to go back and make it our E array. And whenever we were referring to integer values, we had to change them to E. There's a couple of other things that had to change. In particular, when we remove something, we don't want to just leave it alone. We want to set it equal to null. So that was here. Or when we clear the field, we wanted to clear everything out, setting them equal to null. And then what was different was we put our iterator within this array or within this class. And so we made that a private class that implements an iterator, and then altered some of that code within the iterator. I will post updated code for the array integer list, the array integer list iterator, and this array list all on the in-class code. And we'll leave it at that.